of trouble if I send that text. And I told her right out, I says, I am not going to send that text. And she just went totally ballistic. And I told her right then and there, I says, I am now through with you, 100%. And I just hope I don't run into her in Freddy's here someday while I'm trying to get supplies. I think she'll move out of the area eventually, but
Well, the thing is, like, I just want to avoid her because I got no guarantees that she's going to move out. The fact that and here's the thing about, like, what you were saying about having proof. Don't accuse people without proof. And you're absolutely right about that, and I shouldn't blame it on Molly. I can't think of anybody else that would have a grudge against me other than her to put glass underneath my tires like that, though.
that's right.
But the other part is, like, with her accusing me of stealing stuff, and you found her stuff that she was accusing me of stealing and gave it to her, and she's still doing that stuff. Plus, she was doing the playing nice thing with me earlier yesterday, which that weirded me out because with the situation of her volatility and the fact that she's thrown stuff at you that she actually hit you with, like, that's not borderline abuse, that's actual abuse.
Right, yeah.
For a lot of people, they don't care about verbal abuse. A woman is allowed to verbally abuse you. You're a man, it's just something we have to accept. It's not okay for a man to verbally abuse a woman back, though.
Right.
And that's also something we have to accept. But when it gets to a point where a person is being physically abused, it doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman to me. I'm going to be like, you know, I shouldn't be giving you advice, especially unsolicited, but if you're getting had, get the fuck out of there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's yeah. Well, I'll stop yapping now so you can get some sleep.
Oh, you better. Yup. No, I'm just, for me, the situation with her and the frustration with that, and then, like, I look at the situation that you're in. Most of the people that I've dealt with are not Toms, they're Mollies. Not usually that bad, but
Yeah,
like, you know, you contribute. You're not expected to contribute when some of the stuff that you've done for me is a little more above and beyond than I would have even asked. But when you got the point, like when I was asking about a place to go panhandling, like, you understood that I was actually asking about a place to go panhandling. You weren't taking it as me trying to mooch money out of you or try to get this or that or the other out of you. You took me at my word and you gave me the information I asked for, which is far more useful to me. I'm one of those people where if I want something, I don't mind asking. Oh my God. All right, that lady is super nice.
Oh,
She is. When I was over there at the skate park, she stopped and introduced herself and let me know a little about herself and shared with me and everything. She's pretty sweet. I hope she gets a good amount of sleep tonight. I probably shouldn't have interrupted you either. That was rude of me.
do it.
I said I probably shouldn't have interrupted you either. That was
Oh
rude
no,
of me.
no. Does she bring food around to people?
Do what?
Oh, I just saw you sitting here in your wig, so I'm sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. Some people are just like that. Outright overly friendly. Although I don't consider it overly friendly because then I'd have to look at myself that way.
What did she give you?
Godfather.
What is it? So I'm not mistaken, it's a tube of marijuana?
It is?
I'm guessing.
It looks super thin and it's red. I've had the tubes of marijuana. They're usually thicker and fatter. Only one way to find out. All right, well, it's not loose marijuana because then it would have stuck to my thumb when I did that. If it is marijuana, it's a joint. It's not a joint.
It's 2 joints.
It's 2 joints. 2 joints for parking in a parking lot and having a conversation. And it wasn't even with her.
There is a God.
There's your moment of clarity. It's when you were talking about, feeling bad for Molly and feeling responsible. We're taught to be that way as men in this country, and mostly those of us who are older. A lot of younger folks don't have that. They don't get that. It's not something that they've been taught. There was no family dynamic for them to learn it from. So you feel bad for and responsible because you feel bad for her, and I'm kind of the same way, except I had to dip out, and I dipped out. I recognized what I would and would not be able to do in this situation. With her, she's got to have moments where she's not evil.
Yeah.
And it seems to me, even when she's saying nice things to me, she's got something up her sleeve, which is why she's talking nice.
Yeah. It's I couldn't understand, I guess a better word, when she was constantly accusing you of stealing these little characters that she claimed were so valuable to her, and they probably were. And I kept telling her, I says, you can't accuse somebody of stealing something with hard evidence. That's one of the worst things you can possibly do. And she says, she knows you did it. She knows everything. And I searched that site because I knew you didn't steal it. And I knew that it had to be there someplace. And written around, she had this, there's that wooden frame there, and then we put cardboard over it. And then,
and then the air mattress.
Yeah, the air mattress. And so removing all that stuff to move over to the other side, I started, after I got all the cardboard off, I started sorting through the dirt a little bit, and I saw something shiny over on her side. And I went over there and I dusted away, and there they were. She had set them over there and forgot about it. And they got covered up with some dirt. And so when I was doing that, she was over here at Freddy's or something, and she'd come back, and I told her, sit down, I want you to close your eyes and hold your hand out. And so she did, and I put them in her hand, and she opened her eyes and she looked at them, and she just held them in her hand, looked down, thought about how glad she was to get them back. Never once looked at me and said, thank you. Never once said, oh, I should not have accused him of stealing them. She just went on and started accusing you of stealing something else.
Yo,
You know, how can you win these situations? It's just,
I can't.
you can't.
At least, like when she had the cops come and harass me, they came down and they didn't really harass me. I mean, when I was explaining what was going on, they seemed to pretty well understand that I'm, well, sane. And also that there was something god awful not right, but obviously I wasn't there to hurt anybody. I wasn't there trying to hurt her or myself or you or anybody else. And then after that, after sending the cops to come harass me, then she wanted to talk to me friendly. But then it turns out she was only talking to me friendly because she was trying to find you after yelling at you. I'm like, geez, I can't win. He can't win. You know what? If we play against each other, one of us is bound to be the winner. I think getting a bike ought to be pretty easy. The ones they have there at Fred Meyer, those are like $200 for them for the cheap ones. And there's probably somebody who's got a better bike they're just throwing out. There usually is. It'd be worth going to Portland to get one too.
Yeah.
But then if it's not new, you don't know what condition it's necessarily
That's
in.
the other thing too. She insisted I look on Craigslist for one, and I told her, I says, well, somebody's going to have it listed, and maybe they're here in Tillamook on the other side of town. We're going to go all the way over there, and it's not going to be what we want or I want. And it's not easy getting around in this town. You want a bus, take a bus, you got to get on the bus and you go all the hell all over every place before you get back to your starting point. Have you been on the loop?
No, I haven't, because I know what it's like using public transit.
It's, you get to see the entire city before you get back where you started. It's but it's good transportation if you know exactly where you're going, and if you know the town well enough.
You can get off at a wrong stop and still get there within a couple blocks walk.
Yeah, you
It's a
save
tiny
yourself.
town.
Yeah, I forgot where it was we wanted to go, but we could have got off much earlier and walked 2 blocks and been there long before going all the way over here out in this country and loop around here and finally get past the spot we wanted to get to. I think it was the DMV. And I don't even know why I was talking about getting around town, but
The bike.
yeah, yeah, going on Craigslist is, if you have time and if it's going to save you enough money to make it worthwhile, fine. But
Yeah, that's the thing I've been doing with Craigslist. I'm looking, but the stuff that I'm seeing is not local. So, I mean, it's not going to be cost effective. If it was something in town, you'd go take a look at it and see maybe it will, maybe it won't.
yeah,
If it's in Portland, that's 70 miles each way.
yeah, I'm gonna try to see if there's anybody that's got a bike that they can or have already have mounted a gasoline engine on it. And go that route.
I know there are some, I just don't know the name of them. I think one of them is called Sawtooth. But there are people who have them mounted on there. But the other thing is, like with you, with the bikes that you were looking at, and then of course the trailer you were looking at, you were being sensible with what you were looking at, because when you were considering weight the whole time, I mean, that's something that most people are like, all right, I'm going to buy that and we'll hook them up. And then they realize what a mistake they've made.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, the plastic that I got, the reason that I made it is for making some really ultralight stuff as far as, you know, traveling and living goes, like a ultralight backpack that I can flip open and use as a kayak. But, you know, until you're able to actually go somewhere and have a place where you can build it, that doesn't work, which is why I've been trying to go off in the boonies and just be left alone with my trash and just build things. You know, I love building. I like nature. There's a lot of different techniques that I've learned of, like how to harvest a tree more than once. There's a lot of trees out there that were struck by lightning or knocked down, and then they end up with like a whole bunch of little trees all shooting up out of that main stump, hundreds of them. And you can go out there and you can clip off 10 or 15 of them, and you're not going to do any major damage to that plant.
Yeah, that's right.
And then there's the permanent damage that you've done to that plant. Well, it's already been struck by lightning, and chances are pretty good that because of its root structure, one of those is going to become dominant and become a much bigger part of the structure. But the part that's exposed, it's now exposed. Stuff's going to get into it and it's going to die. And another tree or 2 or 3 are going to grow in its place. It's a big difference between destroying a plant and destroying a rock face. We can't put Mount Rushmore back together.
Nope.
And Mount Rushmore is not going to grow another Mount Rushmore in its place. Well, eventually I suppose it might. If the tectonic plates keep pushing, there'll probably be another mountain there eventually.
I actually, I've been there to look at that, and I actually resent it being here. I would much rather look at that mountain the way it was before they started on it. I don't think we should select 5 individuals and give them all this recognition when there are so many other people that deserve more recognition than they do.
I agree with that too. Why are their faces preserved for all eternity? This isn't Ramses II.
That's true.
But, you know, you build in stone, you leave a lasting legacy. Slave owner, freed the slaves, slave owner. That it might not be in that order, but the whole idea for me was to go out onto the Olympic Peninsula and pick a spot within 100 yards or so of the water, and I was gonna go get a trailer and start picking up boats and fixing up boats and giving them out to the homeless, since you're allowed to live on your boat and don't have to pay taxes. But I don't know, things happen there that were not cool, because the cops in Tacoma are pretty shitty. They don't want to do their jobs. And then after they ignore their jobs, they tell the public it's not their fault, they're defunded. Alright. I'm gonna get out and have a whole cigarette.
And do some research here.
I learned how to build mostly with modern materials, but I studied how to build with ancient materials, and I have enough experience in using hand tools to be able to do all that myself. There they are. Oh god, now I'm trying to drop stuff. I knew I was gonna get that to work. Oh. Alright. I'll be back. No guarantees I'm gonna sleep though. This time I'm wrapping my blanket around my legs like a man's skirt, so when I get back in here, my legs are just gonna stay warm, because the rest of me's alright. I was taught to try to see the good in people that are not very good. This is one of the coping skills that they teach you as a kid. as an adult, this coping skill has pissed off most of my friends. Well, the people that I used to consider my friends anyway. Because, see, they, and rightly so actually, are angry that I make excuses for my predators. And some of those are as lame as, she's a little girl. She's tiny. Well, that right there, if she's being victimized, that's a valid thing to bring up. If you're afraid of somebody being victimized, that's a valid thing to bring up. But when it comes to victimizing another person, no, it's actually not really valid. Her size is not valid when she's victimizing me. Her gender is not valid when she's victimizing me. So yes, very much, I understand why they get angry at me and say, Sean, you're making excuses for them. But something they all should have paid attention to is that if that is the case, then I made excuses for each and every one of them too. And their rotten behaviors, their rotten choices. When I said I understood their situation, and they told me, it's, Sean, you do understand the situation. That is exactly how it is. Well, yeah, I know. I'm not always right. But I did spend a lot of time paying attention to people because I think that people are shitty to each other. And that's because, for the most part, they are. Yes, looking the other way is being shitty. Also, I want you to keep in mind that mentally ill people, the people you have been tagging as mentally ill for years, these are the people who are taking care of your mentally ill kids that are too much for you to handle. And for some odd reason, they hit our community, and as long as they hit the right people, they do all right. Usually they don't run into the right people, though. And they're going to be victimized for the rest of their lives because you don't want to understand. You know better than them because they must be retarded. It seems to be the common excuse. You call somebody retarded or you call them crazy. People don't listen to them. Anyway, when it comes to human trafficking, I take it very seriously. My little sister disappeared in, I want to say 2012. That really freaked me out. When Brittany Richmond disappeared in 2000, I want to say 13 or 14, that freaked me out. When Hannah Pendergrass disappeared, that freaked me out. When Sarah Rubiolo disappeared, that freaked me out. Now, those people were found alive, and that freaked me out. I want you to think about the ones that weren't found alive and how much that affects me. When it comes to people who are human trafficked, I don't fuck around. What happened to Rebecca, that was not acceptable. And yes, I came all the way here to Oregon, went through Portland, showing people pictures of her, saying, "Do you know her? Do you know her? Do you know her?" She's missing. She's my friend. She's missing. I finally found her. Thank goodness. I also want to press upon you that it's not just women that this happens to. Men can be victimized too. Elder abuse happens all the time. Abuse against the disabled happens all the time. Anyway, you know how we end these videos. Good to be rid of you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper and no victim left behind.